Marjorie and I was together. She used to hate. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna tell it all. I'm gonna tell it all, y'all. She said, and it was fact. She used to check dudes with big lips. Yeah.
So.
But I do want people to know and understand that it's not about throwing Marjorie under the bus. But I have came to a point in my life where she got to be accountable for what she's doing. Because for 6 years, leave me alone. All I want to do is bond with my kids and my grandkids. You see what I'm saying?
She's making that
That's
hard
why I didn't write.
So, it looks like we finally know the truth behind what Marjorie Harvey was up to for so long before she met Steve Harvey, because her ex-husband and former drug dealer Jim Townsend is pulling back the curtains on who she really is, especially when they were allegedly running the street gang together back in the 90s. And let me tell y'all, Mrs. Harvey is a hustler. She's a hustler, baby. He talked about how sneaky she could be, and it was hard to ever really trust her because she always moved like she had nothing to lose as long as she got what she wanted. But what really happened between Marjorie and her ex-husband, and why does he want to spill all these details now? The drama around Marjorie Harvey is nowhere close to being over. At this point, I'm almost convinced that Steve Harvey didn't write his best-selling book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, because Marjorie has always moved like that. I mean, just think about it for a second. Marjorie Harvey was married to 2 kingpin drug dealers, got with Steve Harvey's bodyguard, and was so amazing that Steve Harvey's bodyguard put a word in for her, and she eventually got with Steve and has him worshiping the ground she walks on, okay? What in the entire world? Talk about playing a game well. All right, sis. And if you ask her ex-husband, Tim Townsend, Marjorie has always been this way. Not only did she earn the nickname Lady Heroin from her time in the streets, but she also knew all too well how to finesse a ninja. After spending 26 years behind bars, Tim Townsend finally got released in 2017 by former President Barack Obama after getting clemency. And almost as soon as he got out, he started sharing his story and spoke out about a lot of things and people he interacted with, especially during his time in Memphis on the drug scene. And one major person he touched on was Marjorie Harvey and how she contributed to his success and downfall. From what Townsend is saying, when he and Marjorie first got together, she initially didn't know he was married. He withheld that information from her, but she found out later on in their relationship and she agreed to continue seeing him. In fact, he told her that he didn't want any more kids because the one he had were enough for him. But Jim really underestimated what Marjorie would do to get the bag. They continued to see each other and they were going around town as a couple.
See, the whole deal with Marjorie was, that's what I'm saying, Marjorie was a player. Young
when you say player?
Well, when I say that, because listen, she was on the pill, and I told you I had 3 kids already out of wedlock.
Okay.
So I had this conversation with her. I said, listen, I don't want no more kids. And she said, well, because, I really loved kids, but I understood sort of, I can't beat her with him, be a father, because see, my father went in the household. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to be like him from that perspective, But I didn't have the know-how to, hey, well, don't do this, get one woman and, stay with that. So, but I had this talk with Marjorie. I said, Marjorie, listen, I got 3 babies out of wedlock. I don't want another kid out of wedlock. I'm taking care of them. I was taking care of my kids. Mm-hmm. But she was saying, oh, no, I'm on the birth control pill. I'm on the pill, blah, blah, blah. I said, that's cool. But she ended up getting pregnant. And I know she did it on purpose.
While she was with him, Marjorie was also fully aware of what he did for a living, and according to Jim, she never really tried to remove herself from the situation. Instead, Marjorie got herself tied up in the Memphis drug scene and got so well known that people started calling her Lady Heroin. She also had to drop out of the University of Memphis because her rep was so bad that she couldn't face going to classes. Remember when we said that Marjorie and Jim had already agreed not to have kids together? Yeah, well, that went straight out of the window as soon as the relationship started hitting its stride. According to Jim, Marjorie stopped taking birth control pills and didn't tell Jim anything. And it didn't take long for her to show up with a smile on her face telling him that they have a child on the way. Their daughter Morgan was born a few years later, and their son Jason was also on his way. However, it was during Marjorie's pregnancy with their second child that Jim got some information that changed his life forever. He found out that the feds were really coming for him this time, and he wasn't going to get out of it. They had solid evidence on him, and even worse, they had proof of his brothers and Marjorie's involvement in the organization. So he decided to do what any family man does and get a plea deal, leaving his brother and Marjorie home to go on with their lives while he went off to prison.
They didn't indict her because, I made a deal with them not to indict. You got to be mindful. At this particular time that I got busted, if you want to call it get busted.
Okay.
They showed me, drug transactions between Marjorie and people that I knew they weren't lying. That people that, she had sold drugs to and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, she 8 months pregnant. We got a 5-year-old daughter, so there was no way, whatever I could do to keep her from going to prison or being indicted. And see, I know how those feds play it. And that was the right move, because they would have railroaded.
They would have railroaded her just.
Oh, she would have. Oh, yeah, because they had people gonna step up, and
and testify against.
Yeah.
her.
So I mean, I'm reading it, so I'm saying I know they ain't lying, because they got the people's name, Mark, and all that I know she had turned those deals with.
Jim was sentenced for life, and less than 5 years after he was put under lock and key, Marjorie divorced Jim and moved on to the next level of her life. She didn't stay single long because she got hitched to one of the infamous Wood brothers, Darnell Woods, and welcomed daughter, Laurie. But Darnell wasn't any better than Jim. He was involved in the exact lifestyle that almost landed Marjorie in some major trouble before. And it looked like she didn't really care about it as long as he could provide the lush life that she was accustomed to having. And what makes this even more complicated is that the entire time Marjorie was with Darnell, she and Jim kept tabs on each other. Whenever Jim made a call, Marjorie was right there to answer it and make sure that there was still a line of communication between Jim and his kids. But girl, for drug dealers, there are mostly 2 ways to go out. Either you get offed on the streets or you live long enough for the feds to come knocking. And Darnell wasn't going to be any exception. Not long after they had their daughter, feds started looking into Darnell too and found evidence about his family's substance operation. He got indicted and was sent to the jail for 37 months. And once again, Marjorie wasn't going to be sitting around waiting for a convicted felon to come home. She quickly got her divorce from him, and this time around, Marjorie was only looking to secure the bag in a way that wouldn't get the feds knocking on her door every few years. When she got divorced from Darnell in the early 2000s, Steve Harvey was everywhere. He was still riding off of that major wave of doing Kings of Comedy, and he was really bringing in some money, unlike the first time they met when he was a struggling comedian. But Marjorie just couldn't come into her circle like that because Steve was still married to his second wife, Mary Lee. So do you know what she did? Marjorie allegedly started dating Steve's bodyguard, Big Boom. Big Boom was never really her type to begin with. So with their relationship starting to get difficult to deal with, Marjorie slowly entered Steve's radar until she got his attention.
So I came late, I came down front with my girlfriend. Our seats were right here at the front, right by the stage. So we were sitting here, the stage was here. So he's just quiet. He just keeps staring at me. So I'm waiting on him to make me a part of the show so we can get on with the show. So he stayed quiet so long staring at me. Now everybody in the club is looking at me. And so he finally realized, okay, I got to say something. He was like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who this is, but I'm going to marry her.
The thing is, Marjorie and Steve had already met long ago when she was still married to Jim Townsend. He was a struggling comedian and Marjorie really wasn't about that life. When he had asked her out back then, she rejected him and basically asked him to come find her when he had made something of himself. So when she came into his life again, it was basically set that she and Steve were going to end up being married. This was his dream girl that got away already, and Steve wasn't about to let her walk out on him again. And child, Marjorie wasn't going anywhere either. Since Steve was still married, Marjorie started out as a side chick, and then when Steve finally divorced his wife, he and Marjorie took their relationship public and tied the knot. Steve, on the other hand, knew the type of past that Marjorie had before she got with him, and with him being such a public figure, he started to help clean up her image and the issues associated with her past. Additionally, he settled some debts that she had from her time on the Memphis scene. In fact, it was only after she and Steve got married that Marjorie started to kick Jim out of her life and her kids' lives as well.
I'm saying, so I be trying to tell people, me and Marjorie was tight as friends. The whole time I went to prison, I could call her if I needed anything, she'd do it. She was bringing those kids to see me up until, even with Darnell, Laura's dad, was cool. We cool. until 3 days before she got married.
And then she just...
The day after, 2 days after, I called her like I told her I was gonna call her and, you know, congratulated, did well job, blah, blah. I never heard her voice again to this day.
They were not allowed to communicate with him, and she even got Steve to adopt all 3 of her children, even though Morgan and Jason were already over 18, and Lori was on her way over the legal threshold as well. According to Jim, Marjorie wanted to present this clean image and act all brand new with Steve, so much so that she got mad when their daughter Morgan wanted to repair a relationship once he got out of prison. And ever since he got out of prison, Jim has stayed calling Marjorie out and continued to blame her for dragging him down and leaving him when things got rough. He said, what she needs to be called out for is what she's done to this family. She has totally destroyed our family structure, totally. And now that people know what Marjorie's backstory looks like before she got with Steve, it's really changed how people view her. Sounds like the real kingpin is Marjorie. That woman got game for real. And when you have game like that, you play it well. Work is for the birds. Marjorie knows that. She knows how to play the game. I'm waiting for her book to come out. Marjorie used her looks to get herself financial gains. She's fortunate she didn't get any jail time. You can't knock the hustle. But what do you guys think of all of this? And if Marjorie ever dropped a book on her life, would you go read it? I know I would. Sound off in the comments and make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, baddies.